Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
Yeah, and you are very welcome to this week's edition of Friday Night Racing. It's Ger Gilroy and Johnny Ward with you for the next 45 minutes or so. If you want to get in touch with us, you can always get us live on the WhatsApp 0879 180 180 180, or indeed, there's only two 180s by the way, not three, or by text on 53106 if you want to talk to us on Off the Ball here this evening as well. It is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing for updates and news from the various racetracks around the country, and the hashtag is every racing moment. Johnny, how are you?
Not too bad, Ger. What's the story?
What's going on in the world of racing at the moment?
Not an awful lot. I think the Racing Post today is very interesting. It deals with the issue of the use of the whip and dangerous riding, and a guy from the BHA, the head of that relevant department, is talking about it. This kind of goes back to an article that Kevin Blake had that has been taken up by various people who support it, and that's a pretty big deal. Just, I suppose what the main point people will make is that you can ride dangerously in a race and hold on to the race, endangering the lives of yourself and others, and you'll do it because you're reprimanded insufficiently in terms of holding on to a top race. So I think they may look to changing the kind of rules in terms of making them more in line with other countries that clamp down far more severely on that. On the racing front, the Curragh is on this week, really good card on Sunday, and it's been a pretty quiet week on the racing front, but amazing weather actually. I think the ground is going to be pretty drying out a lot. It seems like we finally have had a summer after nothing in June and July. And Cork, the Curragh, Kilbeggan and Downpatrick, so loads on this weekend. How
are the dual seasons combining at the moment? How is everybody finding that?
Really good, and no reports of any coronavirus outbreaks, which is good because obviously we've heard of cases, particularly in the Midlands, a lot, and I think racing's gone on so long now that people have sort of forgotten about it, but the protocols are still there. Gary Moore was fined for breaching protocols in Britain in recent days, and we've had some instances in Ireland where trainers were reprimanded, but there doesn't seem to be anything happening untoward as of yet, and I think people are being very diligent, and the race programme has gone exceedingly well. Race meetings are obviously going ahead with lesser prize money, lots of divided races, but as a punter, as much as it's not nice to be unable to go racing, as much as a lot of punters don't go racing anyway, every day you seem to have really good action, and often two cards, so everything's gone really well, I have to say. When you see the League of Ireland came back and a game was called off straight away, we've lots of other problems in sport. Racing's been, thankfully, has been pretty great so far on that front.
The decision last week to make sure that we're sticking where we are at the moment, in the sense that the pubs aren't going to open anytime soon, how much of a disappointment was that in terms of not being able to go from the 200 to 500 of all the sports? And in fairness to them, they haven't been complaining the way some other sports have been winding the house down about not being able to move from 200 to 500, but of all of them, it kind of felt like the giant racetracks are very well suited to having bigger crowds.
But 100% sure, yeah. I think they just probably have to apply rules across the board, like 200 to 500 people at a race meeting. If you visit the Curragh or any racetrack, really, you could see that quickly that's not really going to be a problem. But I haven't heard much from within the sport. I think when we see how long it's been for other sports to come back, and that's the sports that have come back, still no inter-county football or hurling, still no rugby as of yet, I think there's just great relief in racing that, and the people I've been speaking to as well, as much as we've gotten used to watching it on the box or on your phone or whatever, the programme has kind of come back in quite quickly. They've made up for lost time, so to speak, and horses are running, and horses are running in Britain, and horses are running in France, and the main action is taking place, and it's kind of become a new normal now, I think, in racing, that we're not at the track, but the jockeys and the trainers are. And as for the moment, I think people are probably conscious of the fact that it's an evolving situation, and there's a lot of alarmist kind of coverage out there about the new figures and all that, and I think people in racing are probably apt to just staying quiet now and being thankful for what we have.
Yeah, I think everybody has adapted quite well to the fact that this is what it's going to look like, and if we are all going to progress from this, we need to begin to get back to whatever base camp is, whatever it looks like, where it's the least that we're going to do no matter what the scenario is.
It's strange as well, because even if you speak to people who had winners in Galway or whatever, or won big races, you know, Gavin Ryan, Aidan McGuinness, for example, they had superb weeks. Trainers like Mark McNiff, Johnny Murtagh having sensational campaigns. Donnacha O'Brien, who we spoke to recently, winning with his first British winner in a Group Run, winning big races left, right and centre of late, following on from the French Derby. The fact that people aren't there has just become a bit normal, and you know these races are still there to be won. I have a lot of sympathy, obviously, for publicans who've had to wait and still are waiting for their businesses to resume. But in racing, as much as I'm sure there is going to be something of a car crash down the road from the racetracks have lost so much income, I think there's a lot of resilience in racing. We do say that a lot, but the fact that there's been barely a hiccup at all in terms of the programme and racing going ahead, meetings not being abandoned for any reason at all, and you know, real just hard work. People should remember that the foot soldiers in racing, the staff, who basically are split 50-50 more or less on gender lines, they don't get paid really well. They work because they love being in horses and being involved in horses, and they have diligently, in a really troubling time when there was no racing, they've turned up for work. They didn't moan or groan about it, and they've turned out their horses in impeccable shape, and you know, the trainers have gotten the show back on the road after so much uncertainty. And you know, I think there's a massive glass half full attitude in racing at the moment, that we are racing, and we've very good racing as well so often, Ger. It's like an avalanche of quality stuff post-lockdown, which has been great.
Right, if you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet the show at Off the Ball, or use the hashtag as well, Every Racing Moment, and we'll pick those up too. Now, next Tuesday was supposed to be the 9th Hurling for Cancer match. It has become a fixture of both the racing and the GAA calendars, but unfortunately, obviously, it has fallen victim to the pandemic. Notwithstanding that, there is loads of ways that people can still raise money for cancer research, and I'm delighted to say Davy Russell, who's been centrally involved in this over the last number of years, is with us to talk to us a little bit about this and everything else that's going on as well. Davy, good to talk to you. How are you?
Very good. Yeah, you're all well.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, obviously, every year we love having Jim in to talk to us about what's going to happen with the inevitable match in Newbridge and the crack that's going to happen and who's coming this year that wasn't coming before and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, it has fallen by the wayside. Notwithstanding, though, there are plenty of opportunities for people to get involved and to try and raise some money.
Yeah, including yourself.
What do we need to do?
Well, you need to show off your hurling skills. And very importantly, donate. That'll be €1 or €100, whatever you're comfortable with. We don't mind. But what we really need is loads of people getting involved. And the more people, young, old, Finn played his first hurling match last week, and he done his skill challenge, and he nominated two Johnnies and a couple more. So we need you to do a hurling skill, whether it's picking up the ball or, as I done, driving it down the field, or like Richie Hogan done, balances hurley. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what your skill is, because we all know how difficult it is. Just do your skill, put it up on social media, spread the word, and nominate 3 or 4 people. And don't forget to donate to Hurling for Cancer, or the Irish Cancer Society, or the Irish Cancer Society / Hurling for Cancer.
At Hurling for Cancer is the Twitter address, and we'll retweet that as well. And Johnny Ward, you're from the Galway football part. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I was really, really bad at hurling, I have to say. I kind of gave it up about a year before I started, I think. I was from a football area, but just like golf, anything with a stick in my hand, I'm no good. But absolutely, like Davy, massive fan of the sport, and been, watching Galway hurling since, I suppose, the late 80s. Didn't remember them winning the All-Ireland in 87 and 88, so there's this massive famine. I've actually chatted to Davy a bit about hurling from time to time, and you can tell that he absolutely loves it. But I suppose, Davy, Jim Bulger, the work he's done here and just how big this has become is really testament to the man. And also, I suppose, how sport can unite people, because the calibre of men that he's gotten to come and join in and play the game in Newbridge every other year has been astounding as well.
Yeah, look, he's even astounded me with the people you ask. Nobody has ever said no. Absolutely nobody. They've all given their time freely and enjoyably, and it's just gone from year to year. It's gone from strength to strength, and you know, I suppose the huge key to it is Jim and his team down there. And then Newbridge itself, the town itself, could be very proud of what they've helped us create. So the local distilleries, everybody had gotten involved. So it just, from year to year, it's got stronger and stronger. And the people that were there from the start are still there doing it and enjoying it. And we've added people in every year. And again, this year we have the online auction, which is the wheels are getting in motion now, and people have actually been ringing us, offering items to auction. We haven't really. No, obviously the girls have gone searching for bits and pieces, but people have actually seen this going on and have offered us items to auction, which is fantastic. It just takes a lot of the pressure off the girls to have them go and ask. In these times, people have actually just nominated themselves for different things, like, you know, the little lawn jockeys that you can have in your own colours or anybody else's colours, and David Mullins and Paul Townend are willing to give away money on a bet. Someone that's good at golf can take them on at a game of golf, and they'll actually buy a dinner, which is, you know, it's actually priceless, to be honest, with the pair of them. So little things like that. Look, they might mean much to too many people, but what the few quid that they could gather together could make a huge difference, and that's what it's all about. We're lucky enough to be in a position that, you know, people know who we are, and when we kind of go at doing something, they recognise our name, and then it all goes to a wonderful cause, which unfortunately touches every house in a household in the country in some way, shape, or form. So it's an easy sell, but people are just fantastic to gather on. I see some very familiar names bidding on the auction things already. So it's up there and running, and that closes at 6:30 on the 11th. So if anybody wants to just go up and have a look, if there's something there that suits you, throw a bid in it. If not, keep checking it, because there's items that are being added every day.
galabid.com/hurling for cancer, and that's next Tuesday, August the 11th. It closes at 6:30. There's stuff like Around the Golf with DJ Carey, signed Tiger Roll Aintree Grand National Race cards by both Davy and Gordon. There's helicopter trips, and there's a Dublin jersey signed by the 2019 winning team. That's just a small selection of the stuff as well. Obviously, the other things that Davy's been talking about there, you can get them as well. How are you getting on at the moment? You're not actually riding, are you?
No, unfortunately, I have a little niggly thing going on my back. It happened to me last year, and I went to NFL and we started it, and it just has reared up again. Whether the break actually might have brought it on, or what brought it on, I'm not quite sure. But I have an issue with a vertebrae in the bottom of my back, and it needs a bit of physio and a bit of time just to get it back going right. And it'll take a couple of weeks, but luckily enough, it's not as bad as it was last year, so it's very fixable.
It must be unbelievably frustrating after the break to have this coming along so soon afterwards.
Yeah, and I was going to Galway like in great shape, and after every race as we went on, it just got worse and worse. And then I went and gave the night with physio. John Butler was there, and then I went down to the salt spas in Briar Hill, and they made a huge help. And I thought, going to the races, okay, we're back where we need to be. And again, after the first ride, I just couldn't continue. The pain was after moving around up in underneath my ribs. So and I had some lovely rides to look forward to. They were too important to kind of get halfway in a race and say, oh, I can't do this anymore. So I had to call it a day, and now we need to get back to 100% now, because we've some lovely horses coming through for the winter.
How much of a worry is that for you, Davy? I know we've obviously probably talk about the Barry Geraghty and the elder statesman in the dressing room, but is it an injury that is maybe harder to deal with as you get older?
Well, this is something that I've never really dealt with before, only last year, and it was very fixable. So I thought I didn't have to go as severe as we did last year to fix it, but maybe we might have to do that now. But I was feeling great. I was flying, and just whatever way it is with leaning on nerves in my back, it's just one of them things. I don't think it's much to do with my age, but it's more just the positioning of it.
What did you make of Barry Geraghty's retirement? Obviously, he went out very quietly compared to Ruby. Barry just came at it, I suppose, at the right time, and it's probably hard to believe the guys that have kind of come and gone now from the weighing room in your time, the golden generation that we've often spoken about. But you know, another top man gone, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. Barry was always a stalwart of the way room. Very funny guy. Would never really be the centre of much, only that anytime he'd add something to a conversation, you'd want to listen to it. He was very, very intelligent and bright chap, and he was just a great fella to be around, a great fella to ride against, and an exceptional talented rider that, you know, the likes of him will be very hard to replace, you know. But look, every time someone retires, someone new is going to step into his shoes, and they'll get the opportunity to do that. But Barry was he was a hell of a good rider. He was shocking brave and hard as iron. Now, he was as tough as nails. You know, I've seen him get some horrendous falls and walk away from him, and his attitude to come back from injury was fantastic.
Do you feel like the guy that the young lads can all come up and kind of get advice off now? Because I guess you are among a very select number of the elder statesmen who've been absolutely fine throughout their career, still going very strong, and you know, you've all these young jockeys coming up.
Yeah, sure. Look, I have no problem giving advice, but you know, advice you have to take advice carefully. You know, if you really have an issue and you want someone to help you, that's fine, and I've no problem with that. But you know, if someone lads coming up willy nilly asking stupid questions, or you know, it's hard to. But I definitely have no problem giving advice. A lot of lads are sometimes they get worried about things that there's nothing to worry about, if you know what I mean. And it's very hard to tell them that a young lad that there's nothing to worry about, you know, the time and a little bit of patience will cure a lot of things. You know, they don't often listen to simple advice like that. Advice can often be very simple if you just take it at its worth, you know.
Well, if you look back when you started off in your professional career with Ferdy Murphy and so forth, and you were kind of coming back to Ireland, and is the Davy Russell of 2020 going to tell the Davy Russell of 2003 or 2004, give him advice that maybe actually, because when you look at your own maturity, that the way you dealt with the O'Leary situation and became basically one of their go-to men again, you seem to find maturity yourself as you got older.
Oh, definitely. But sure, look, it's the same in any walk of life. And actually, Barry Geraghty was very influential the day I got the ride back on Tiger Roll. He was one of the guys that I did speak to that day in Cheltenham. It was the last day at Cheltenham. I was after picking up 3 or 4 good rides, and Barry put it very simply to me to continue keeping my mouth shut and ride the horses I'm given. And if you ride them successfully, then there's no excuse for them not to keep coming, if you know what I mean. So you have to work really, really hard, and I'm not saying I'm worked any harder than anybody else. I'm just saying that when I turned professional, I thought it was going to be an awful lot easier. I thought I was going to drive a big car and arrive on at the races and ride horses, and it's completely the opposite. You know, it's pure graft from day in, day out, and you have to have only one thing on your mind, and that's horses, racing, and everything that goes with it. You have to be totally committed, and just some lads are not ready at certain times to give that full commitment, and that's fine. But if you're willing to do it, if you're willing to give out about it, then you must take the criticism as well as the praise. And I saw that I wasn't giving it everything, and I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. So I had to change a few things around, and then just give it everything. Like, and I mean everything. You just dedicate your entire life to racing, and it will give back what you put into it.
When did the penny drop for you on that, and what caused the penny to drop?
Well, you see, I was never really settled. So when I was in Ferdy's, I always wanted to come home. Like, I used to come home at the weekends, and I just wanted to ride horses. I didn't, the work side of it didn't really entertain me. You know, I wasn't. I was just happy just riding in races, and that's all I wanted to do. It didn't sit well with me that I had to take a day off to recover for the week that was coming ahead. So I was kind of a little bit selfish in that way, and then I came back and I was kind of enjoying it and getting loads of rides, and hadn't got the quality, so I had to work a little bit harder on that, and I realised then when you start, I rode my first Grade 1 winner for Arthur Moore as a spare ride, and it kind of, when you ride your first one and you're capable of riding Grade 1 winners, then you kind of need to concentrate an awful lot more and dedicate yourself more to the sport. So I'd say when I started riding the likes of Solwit and Manzoni and them, then it finally clicked with me that, you know, this is bigger than what I thought it was, and it just needs an awful lot more of it, more attention.
And what did that attention actually mean on a practical day-to-day basis? Did it mean like not going out? Did it mean eating properly? Like what? How did you change? Was it a mindset thing?
Yeah, kind of. You just take away distractions. I wasn't. Mightn't have been the nicest fella to be around now. I was pretty much tunnel vision, and maybe could have for some people might have said I was a bit too much, you know. So then I had to learn in later life to tone that down as well a small bit, you know. And you have to find the mix then between enjoying yourself and dedicating yourself to it, which is a fine art. And I'm enjoying myself so much at the moment. It's hard to describe, you know. And I hope I'm still giving the full dedication to every horse I ride. And Gordon has a lot of different levels of owners, we'll say, on what from syndicates to Gigginstown are the likes, you know, Philip Reynolds and Chris Jones and all them lads. And I like to give the lads that are on a horse in a syndicate the same ride as I would, whether it be Philip Reynolds or Chris Jones or any of these big new owners that he has.
That period where you were tunnel visioned, was that kind of the mid 2000s? Is that period where you needed someone eventually to kind of say, tone it down a bit?
Yeah. Around that time, I thought I was giving it everything, and I thought you just kind of had to be ruthless, or I don't know what it was to get to the top. And whether it helped me get up there or not, I don't know. But when I got there, I realised it wasn't as much fun as I thought it would be. And then I just started enjoying it a little bit more, and it did, you know. It came both sides, one melted into the other, but at the same time I had loads of people supplying me with horses, so it was easy to start enjoying it, you know.
Yeah, I have a little theory about this. I think that the way that we all responded to Roy Keane at that period and his public stuff, we held him up as like, oh, you have to be like Roy Keane, you have to be an absolute killer in everything you do. But what we didn't know in private was Roy Keane was going out and having crack with his teammates the whole time. That actually there are two Roy Keanes. One is kind of funny in the dressing room and very relaxed, and the other one is this one who comes out after a match, still blood boiling, going, it's kill or be killed, fail to prepare to fail, all that kind of stuff. When actually the reality is we all need a little bit of balance in our lives.
Yeah, and I was watching AP, and I see that with him, but I never saw the other side. So what I decided to do was I decided to take a bit of Paul Carberry and a bit of AP and try and melt the two of them together. And that's somewhere where I'd like to have found a place in there. But as I've grown older and spent a bit of time socially with AP and different things, sure, he's not the man, you know, that we see every day. You know, he enjoys himself as much as anybody else, you know.
Yeah.
I was talking to a mate of mine about a band recently, how the band changed when they all started having children and the way their music changed. Did you find that you matured a lot by becoming a father? I actually remember being at Downpatrick one day, and there was all this hullabaloo because you couldn't turn up for your ride, and I was on to your agent and he was saying, well, it's a little bit delicate. I'm pretty sure you had your first or second child either that day. Basically your missus had gone into labour, and did that change you then in terms of your philosophy?
Yeah, well, I suppose I was 22 when Jamie was born, so I needed to mature an awful lot at that stage too, and I probably didn't, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, you know, I probably didn't give Jamie as much time as I should have, but I was fully focused on racing completely and ignored a lot of the outside stuff. And then when Lily that was born that day in Downpatrick, and Edel had to go for an emergency section and different things, so I was actually going to Downpatrick when I turned around to come back because they told me that it wasn't straightforward with her, so that's why I missed Downpatrick that day.
It's probably worth it.
You know, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it, and I didn't realise I could love something as much as I love my wife and my children. I just adore them so much. It is unreal. I didn't actually think it was in me for a long time, you know.
Why not?
I don't know. I just didn't think. I left it late to get married. As in, I was 30 odd when I got married. I suppose. I enjoyed myself too much, plenty anyway, as a young lad going out. I never drank or anything like that, but you know, I don't know.
You can still
I don't know what
enjoy
the best way
yourself.
to. Yeah, but I can still enjoy myself, and I just rarely go home to my own bed. I'd put it that way.
You were doing okay.
Yeah.
And
And then I met Adele and settled down, and we had kids, and it was just the best thing that ever happened to me.
do you think, like, is there a kind of trend now that they're going to get into horses as well? You mentioned Paul Carberry, and by all accounts, what I think it's Casey Lou, his daughter, is doing is kind of off the charts for her age. Is that going to be a trend in the Russell household as well?
Again, they'll be. It's there for them for as long as they want it, and unless, as I said, maybe myself, unless they're going to be dedicated to it and give it a shot, I'd prefer they didn't go down that route. But if they want to do it casually and away, it's there for them, and they're riding ponies away there. Lily is able to jump, do a canter around an arena and jump poles and things, and Finn is you know, that little bit behind her, but he's a year younger, but very keen, and they're all the same. Liam the same. He's getting the hang of it now as well. So, 'tis there for them if they want it, and if they don't want it, I won't be anyway put out by it. You know.
The impact that having kids has, it's obviously completely different for everybody, but I remember coming into the office after my first child, and Tom Dunn said, well, geez, you've got a real sense of your own mortality immediately after this happens, don't you, Ger? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, now if you die, your children won't have anybody to look after them. I was like, I hadn't thought about that, Tom. Thanks very much.
Tom was in good form that day.
Well, it was like, and he said it was trademark 1,000-watt smile. So I was like, what was that? And then I became very conscious of it for a while, and became very careful in a lot of the decision making that I made. And like, just, that's a good point. I do now have to somehow provide.
I didn't. I still make the same poor choices. So, but I'm sure they'll be well looked after if I die in the morning.
Well, to extrapolate on that then, because you were in a very dangerous job, and is that something that you think about at this stage of your career, because you don't want to end up in a bad situation?
I'm not in a dangerous job. You keep maybe trying to emphasise it as dangerous. It's not. I'm in the best job in the world.
You wouldn't call it dangerous?
No, not. I wouldn't. No. It's, you get knocks, you get bangs, you get bruises, but no, it's very enjoyable.
Because it's dangerous.
I don't see the dangerous side of it. I can walk out to a field and jump up on a horse and gallop them around in a circle, and some people may find that dangerous, but I can't. Will say, I don't know. I can't go out and play soccer. I just can't do it. It's not in me. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the talent to do it. But I do know how to ride horses.
I guess as well, if you did see the dangerous side of it, you're not going to be much good, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's dangerous. I really don't. I think we grow. Well, it doesn't matter if you've grown up with them or not, but if you're told the right things at the right time, like there's certain lines on horses, as in a position of their body that you don't cross at certain times, you can't get hurt by them. You know, if you stand parallel with your shoulder, a horse can only move one way, and if he moves into you, his arse must go the other way. So that means he can't kick you. A horse is going to bite you. You position yourself in a certain way. If you're okay, a horse will fall, and that's unfortunate. But you're fit enough and you're hard enough, and then it's just unlucky after that. You know what I mean? It's just one of them things, and everybody can be unlucky. And hopefully, it won't be my turn. But you know, it's just a brilliant sport. I love doing it.
It sounds like you're gearing up to do it for as long as you possibly can.
I do it till I was 100 if my body would leave me, and if Gordon Elliott and a couple of owners would leave me, but that's not going to happen. So whenever we feel like that I'm not riding the same consistent level all the time, then I'm out.
It's obviously very hard. Like, say you feel like you're at that same level, but the quality of horses that you begin to get diminish and your return starts to diminish. Would that be something where
Out.
Yeah, you don't want to be pushed as well. You want to probably say, listen, I
don't want to be pushed out. I don't want to be the fella that they're saying, "Jeez, he should have gave up 10 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago." So I don't want. I thought this year I wanted to have a go up in champion jockey. I thought with the lockdown it might suit us that Gordon's horses might just rattle off there and we might get a bit of a head start on them, and that didn't happen. The horses just didn't fire, and early on they're firing now. But I would love to have, for me to be champion jockey, I'd have to have 10 or 15 winners gone on Paul Townend and get him to chase me rather me chasing him or maybe being 2 winners ahead of him. That's not good enough. You know, you need to be, with the power of Willie Mullins, I'd need to be 15 winners without doubt ahead of him and gone out the gate, and then the power of Gordon behind me for the winter to push that through. And I'm not saying I can't be champion jockey. Of course I can, but it's not going to be as easy. It'll definitely be harder now.
We spoke about this with Geraghty as well. He basically said he didn't think he was any inferior this Cheltenham when he had 5 winners. Then in 2003, I think, when he had 5 winners. When was your peak as a jockey? Is it now, or have you been on a consistent level for, say, the last decade or so?
Sure, I don't know what the figures say. I've been second in the championship a number of times, and there was a lull there at one stage. I think I finished third. If I haven't won it, I finished second or third. So, you know, I don't know. Numbers wise have, you know, gone from kind of 120 odd to kind of 70 odd. So I don't know whether I was absolutely humming there in kind of 2007 or 8, or whether I'm riding better now. I don't know. I feel I'm riding as good as I ever have. I can match with anybody that's out there. So
is there any what's the difference between a 40-year-old jockey and a 20-year-old jump jockey?
A 40-year-old jockey is going to be better.
How?
I think a jump jockey. Well, I think a jump jockey kind of doesn't become himself until he's kind of 30 odd.
Right.
I think. Okay, there's an exception to every rule now. You know, Paul Townend is probably that. He's an exceptional rider at maybe a few years earlier, but I think now was the time for Paul to be getting the job that he got. You know, and I'm not sure. Is he 30?
He's early 30s. Himself and Mark Walsh are of a similar age, and they're kind of both coming to maybe some sort of a peak in terms of their opportunities.
Yeah, and I'd say they're of the right age to make most of them opportunities. So I'd say a jump jockey doesn't. Desi Hughes used to always say it. He said it for years. That a jump jockey to late 20s, early 30s doesn't come to his own.
Paul Townend's going to be texting you after this, Johnny. He's 29 until September.
Yeah,
so
I would have said he wasn't 30.
It's August, yeah.
And then you have Jack Candy then, who's very, very young and looks like he's going to be a very mature jockey before his time. But
well, he's mature because he's had 4 broken legs already, and you're saying it's not dangerous, but like he's kind of the light of that.
Well, we've all had broken legs and broken arms and broken fingers and broken toes.
I haven't, though. Do you know what I mean? That's just like you're a jump jockey. It's like, sure, yeah, I've broken every bone in my body, but sure, no, it's not dangerous. That's just a job.
Yeah, but when you were a young lad, you went to your mother, put a scarf and a big heavy jacket on you and wrapped you up nice and tight in cotton wool, and we didn't really go along that route. We were just happy enough to go out riding ponies, and I get involved since I was 5 years of age. I broke my first bone when I was 11. Do you know, we'll say it's dangerous. It's dangerous maybe for someone that's going to come into it at 25 and say, I want to be a jockey. Your body probably isn't going to be formed well enough to at 25 years of age to become a jockey. You know, I'm not saying it can be done, and anything is possible, but we'll say we're kind of molded from a younger age. Let it be 16 or 17 above and race for lads that haven't grown up with horses, or let it be 11, 8, 7, 12, like for lads that do grow up with horses, do you know what I mean, or grow up with animals and things, and you know, it's we're molded into that kind of that scene, and that takes a lot of the danger out of it. Now, Jack has been unfortunate now, do you know what I mean, to be fair, but he's tough as nails. That fella's, he's tough as teak, and it doesn't knock a funk out of him, do you know what I mean? He'll be back there as good as ever, and as soon before you even know it.
Yeah,
know?
and maybe lockdown actually wasn't the worst time to be off for a while. Barry Geraghty specifically talked about this Cheltenham. There was the race that he won on the line. He said that he wouldn't have won that 4 or 5 years ago, that the experience was that he'd been in a similar scenario and had trouble before and realised exactly what he needed to do. That's the benefit of that 20 years experience or 10 years experience that you have at 40 that the 30-year-old or the 20-year-old doesn't have.
Yeah, you kind of realise there, maybe halfway down the back, as a young lad, you kind of maybe say, I'm in the wrong place, I need to get out of here. Instead of maybe as time goes on, you can survey things maybe an awful lot, you can slow things down in your mind an awful lot easier, and you'll say, do you know what, I don't want to stay where I am, this is going to, there's plenty of time yet, do you know what I mean? Like, you start making decisions down the back straight in Cheltenham, and you just look to your left and see how far away the winning post is. You know, it's a long way away. It might be as long when you're sitting down watching on television, but if you can, as you get older, you can control these things and you can slow down these things. It's the same as driving a car. When you're driving a car as a 21-year-old compared to when you're driving a car as a 31-year-old, there's a huge difference on the way you will approach a traffic jam. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll go switch from lane to lane as a young lad. You'll go, and you won't go any faster. You'll still see that red Toyota Corolla that you were following all the way is going to be a car or two ahead of you anyway. Whereas, you know, when you're 31 or 2 years of age, you realise, you know, stay where I am, this will move. Or, you know, it's the same in any walk of life, you know.
Can I ask, in those races where you feel confident enough not to move, are you confident because of the speed that the race is being run at, or are you confident because you know the form and the performance ability of all your rivals?
Sure, you know, there's a load of things to take into consideration. A lot of the reasons I wouldn't be moving is that one of them, I either have a load of horse left and I don't need to move, or another one of them is I kind of don't have a whole load of horse and I need to hang on to what I have. You know, so there's a lot of different reasons for it. So we'll say, if they're after going a good gallop and I'm to the pin of my collar, now I haven't got down on the saddle and hit him a thump, but I'm to the pin of my collar, I kind of have to take a chance that they're going to stop and I need to conserve everything I have, or just I have a load of horse left. It doesn't really matter what I do. Get over the last couple and give them a squeeze and they're going to win anyway. You know what I mean?
It's mostly your horse that you're thinking of, though, as opposed to...
Yeah. If you see a fella moving, it's because his horse has gone lazy on him or he's got to shutting down. You know, we'll say he starts moving 3 or 4 out and he wins the race. The reason he started moving 3 or 4 out was either his own horse was giving him the signals, or that's the feeling he was getting from his own horse, or maybe he saw someone else in a bit of bother and he needed to go. There was gaps probably opening that you didn't feel were going to last too long. So when the gap opens and you either take it or you don't, like you use it or lose it. As a fella said to me in Cheltenham one day, it was kind of halfway through a gap, and he just I was giving him a shout. He said, "Either use it or lose it." Do you know what I mean? So that's it. You know, so there's a load of different things to consider with watching a race, and then you take it all the way down and simplify it, and the best horse will probably 99 times out of 100 win the race.
How do you know you've got a lot of horse left?
Well, I suppose experience of the horse, knowing the horse. If you've never rode him before, you're just going on the field he's given you. That's basically it. You're just going how, like, you pretty much hit the tapes out the gate and you get into a nice rhythm. It's all nice and it all feels nice and the horse is jumping well and everything is going forward and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything to during the race. You just keep going and in the rhythm you're going, and then there's other times you jump out and you have to change the rhythm. I saw Donna Myler do it the other day in Sligo. He jumped off maybe second last, and over the first 2 hurdles like that, he ended up in 4th or 5th. They weren't going quick enough, and next thing his horse was off the bridle. I thought it was a lovely bit of riding out of him, you know.
You can actually see in the middle of the race, this is what happened to get him back into a scenario where he's given himself a chance to win.
Yeah, well, he if he had to stay second last for any longer than he did, I don't think he'd have won the race. It'd be an interesting watch to watch for your own benefit. The horse Bua Boy. I thought it was a lovely bit of riding now. I really did. He changed it straight away like that over the first two hurdles. He just let his horse run into a position. They didn't go very quick. And he went from being... They weren't going very quick. The position he jumped off to be in, I don't think would have worked to the position he ended up in. Now, whether that's just instinct, I don't think he sat down mentally and made that plan. That's just instinct, and some guys have it and some guys don't.
Yeah, it's always really interesting to hear how these races are won and lost. I've a text in here from Paulie St John. Says, do you remember any specific race where you were up against Barry Geraghty and he was particularly talented?
Yeah, this year at the Cheltenham Festival, everywhere I went in the attempts, he was there. The two of us were doing the exact same thing the whole way through the race. We arrived there at the exact same time, and he beat me on Gordon's horse. JP's horse, his name escapes me.
Sire Burley, is it?
Sire Burley, yeah. Yeah, I rode the storyteller. We done exactly the same thing the whole way through the race, and he just got the better of me there.
And there's nothing you can do, right? It's just, this is...
I ticked every box, sure. I done everything. I winged hurdles. I sat when I needed to sat. I moved when I needed to move. I took it up, going to the last. Like, it was just, you just couldn't ask for it. 999 times out of 1,000, the storyteller wins that race, and we were just beaten by a better one. That was it. I could not have done a single thing different. I don't say. I mean, I should have probably done something different. I didn't win the race, but I couldn't see what I needed to do different. I can't see it.
And last question on that then: are you okay immediately afterwards, or are you a sore loser about that one? Because that one, like what?
No, I'm okay. I can't do it. I sat in the ring and I met Kieran McManus and a few lads on the way in. I said, well done, you know. I said, jeez, I could see him the other way around. And one of his buddies says, do you wanted to give you the prize money or something? It was like, I couldn't do anything different. I thought I should have got the race now, to be honest, but you know, I was just beaten by the better horse, the better jockey, I couldn't say the better trainer, because the same man trained both of them, so just wasn't good enough on the day.
Last question for me: are you putting a clock on it in terms of when you think that time might come that you're still in the top tier and it's going to slip, or are you just playing that one by ear for as long as you can?
Oh no, we'll play it away there, and once there's good horses, as you said yourself, if the quality horse diminishes, I'd say, you know, that's a big indicator anyway. But I don't believe too much in clocks and numbers and figures and all that. I kind of just play it as I play the cards I'm dealt, you know.
There is that thing, like as you mentioned, you know, he should have retired a couple of years ago, and it has been said about various jockeys. It certainly hasn't been said about you. What I'm intrigued is, will you go out in a blaze of glory after winning a Grade 1, or will you go out quietly on a Tuesday in Tramore?
I like Tramore. It's one of my favourite tracks.
I was there the day you rode a double after losing the O'Leary job, and you got a great reception.
Oh, great people, sure. That's the beauty of our sport. We actually have probably the best fans, and we don't realize. A lot of people don't realise how good our fans and how dedicated they are to the sport. They turn up in the depths of winter to support it, and then when the sun is shining, they put on the shorts. They'll sit back and have their few drinks, have a couple of bets, and even back in the day when there was no television and there was none of this carry on. It was just great men to read races and go racing, and women, of course, as well. You know, some of the best people in racing are as much men as they are women, and it's just there's some great people, and they don't need to sit on a horse. They don't need to have ridden a horse or done anything with a horse. They're just some people can get it naturally, you know.
Actually, that was a question and Geraghty said to you around about that time. I don't want to paraphrase here or get it wrong, but it was like, just shut up and the good horses will keep coming if you keep winning. Did you need somebody to say that to you at that time? Were you tempted to lash out?
Yeah. It was definitely helping, man. Definitely help, yeah.
It kind of stopped you from having a moment
Yeah, having a throw my ties out to the pram or something stupid. I knew it wasn't the right thing to do, but sure, like we all know it's never the right thing to do. But sometimes we do the stupid things, and that's why we're not working in NASA. You know what I mean? That's why we're riding horses.
The thing that I think what Davy deserves a lot of credit for in that regard is Jigginstown effectively abandoned its operation of having a retained jockey. It now uses the best available. And to my mind, I don't see why I don't agree that an owner needs a retained jockey at all when he has like loads of different stables. They obviously went to Brian Cooper after that and did various things. And effectively, you were wronged at that time. To my mind, I thought they may have wanted Brian Cooper at an early age, and to think that they kind of went to Brian Cooper, what was that, 6 or 7 years ago now, whatever it was. So you'd still an awful lot more to give, and you weren't even a veteran at that stage. And I think they got it wrong. But despite all of that, and despite probably 1,000 people telling you you've been wronged here, you shut up and you got on with it, and you got the good rides back.
Yeah, but sure, I don't know how wrong they got it. Maybe that was the kick in the arse they needed. You know what I mean? I wouldn't
Fair.
put sole blame on them. And I suppose the thing that I love about Jigginstown and the O'Learys, the first man they called on was me. They never. It must have been something that I was doing that was annoying them, but it definitely wasn't my writing. So, you know, we all knew that afterwards. So it probably could have been the kick in the arse. And I don't know what it was because I didn't ask them. And whatever it was, and that's it. But I don't think it was my writing. So then it must have been my attitude or something. I'm only guessing again. So look, and I tell you, I love riding for them, and I love being around their operation. So I'm just glad that they're still happy enough to use me.
It is good to have somebody like Garrity who you trust, who you can have those conversations with. Because I presume there's not a million people in the world who understand A, how you're feeling, and B, who you respect enough to listen to.
Yeah, they were always there. Like whether it be whoever let it be Ken Whelan or Ruby or all of them lads, but they're all gone now. So you know, it's probably Puppy Power now or Paul Townend or somebody's a couple of years younger than me.
Well, look, keep it lit as long as you can, Davy. Always brilliant to talk to you. Fascinating stuff today, and as I said, we'll retweet all the details about how people can donate to the Hurling for Cancer, because it's been a great fundraiser. It's raised over £1 million over the last while. Thanks a million for joining us today.
I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you what I've been looking at for the last.
Not a bad view.
Oh wow, where is this?
That's what I wake up to every morning.
Is this in Youghal?
That's Youghal by the sea. Yeah, Knockadoon. There's Knockadoon over there. If anybody's looking for a nice place to go for a walk.
Now
beautiful, isn't it?
That is not a bad part of the world to be locked down in.
Well, it's the best country. We have the best country in the world, Davy, when it's like this.
Oh, we do. Whether it's raining or snowing, I think we still have the best country in the world. But I just love Ireland.
With that positivity, Bort Fulcher will be in touch soon. Thanks a million, Davy. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks. He does not need any more work, to be fair, or any more employment. The man is adequately looked after. What a character.
Justgiving.com/fundraising/hurling for cancer, and that's the online auction. Is galabid.com/hurling for cancer. Basically, if you Google Hurling for Cancer, all one word, you'll find all of the details that you need for it. But as I said, you can also buy limited edition cool slitters signed by a host of Hurling for Cancer stars. They're £25 and they're available to buy on the Gala Bid site. This is Friday Night Racing, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Now, Josephina failed to land the hoped for 2 in a row, Johnny. Is it too much to ask for 2 successive weeks?
Obviously it was.
Finishing third at Kilbeggan last Saturday. It means
ran a good race. Yeah, Tony Mullins won the big race in Galway on the same day with the filly Princess Zoe. Fortunately, I didn't go for her. But anyway.
I mean, there was this other horse that won another race that I could have won on, but I didn't.
I'm just making the point that his stable may have won the big race at Galway that day.
That's like finding a ticket on the ground in a casino and going, oh, if this had been for a different race, for a different bet, I could have won.
I think you're slightly overplaying it here. Josephina finished third after a couple of mistakes.
Okay.
Possibly should have won, but
didn't.
We all should have won some races.
The Tote Irish Injured Jockeys Fund remains on €1,890. The question is, can Johnny use this week's €100 tote bet to nudge the fund over the £2,000 mark?
Yeah, Racing TV I've a lot of selections actually for the weekend action. There's 4 meetings on. I think there are some good bets. I'm going to go. I think this might be the last race of the whole weekend, and it's Strongbow in the finale. The Guinness Handicap at the Curragh on Sunday. Paddy Toomey trains this horse. He ran at Leopardstown the last day. When he gave an interview before the race, he was asked about the handicap mark that he got after winning Roscommon Maiden. Kevin O'Ryan was saying, is this a bit high? And he said, he kind of just gave the impression it's not actually. He was sent off favourite, had a horrible trip, and he didn't get home. He's a tongue tie on. It's only his second handicap. He still ran well at the Curragh, and now I'm just looking there. He's 12-1 for the finale. Paddy Toomey is an unbelievably talented operator. Billy Lee.
We're going each way, by the way. I don't care if you say we're going each way.
So we're going each way, yeah. It's funny on about the finding the docket or whatever. I remember that I think it was the first day I ever went racing, and it was typically enough. If the amount of people who got into horses or backing horses or whatever, the amount of them that will tell you that the first bet they had won. It's just like that sliding doors moment. But I remember my luck was so good that day. I was going with my cousins. I think it was Roscommon or Galway, probably Galway, and I was so good that I backed a horse that lost. And I threw the docket away and moved around the racetrack, and they came up in the tannoy, don't discard your dockets as a stewards' inquiry. And it was a tote bet, so you had to literally, like, it wasn't a case of
going back
to the bookie and saying, oh, do you remember the bet I had? And because the bookies are always like, they're very honourable, so they'd be like, oh yeah. So you had to, so I went back and, like, this 11 or 12-year-old, whatever it was, found the docket, they reversed the result, and I won that as well. And, you know,
the rest is history, as
the rest is history. Like, it's just, it is mad the way it happens. You win a stewards' inquiry with your tote docket.
Tote.ie, the new home for Irish pool betting, launched this week. Tote would like to ask all existing account customers to visit the tote.com/change to see what this new website means for your existing account. I should mention about Skeptical and Dennis Hogan during the week. That was a bit of bad news for them.
Just for James McGawley and his uncle Jim Goff. I don't think people really realise this was a movie, this story. It just does not happen on the flat anymore. It's literally, talk about rags to riches. A horse that was basically discarded by a massive operation from the Middle East with all the oil wealth and all the money that the UAE inspired Godolphin has, and all the money that they spend on horses, and they basically try to buy success, and they invest so much money in Ireland and Britain, and they threw this horse away because he had breathing issues. And Dennis Hogan, and he's bought at the sales for like less than the cost of not to mind a car, a good bicycle.
$2.5 grand.
$2.5 or whatever it was. All of a sudden he's the best sprinter in Ireland, and he's right up there with the best sprinters. He's only getting going. And I don't know, I don't really get emotional about horses dying, but I just thought this was a horrible, stupid conclusion to something that should never be like this. But that's the game we're in. Davy says it's not dangerous, but unfortunately horses do break down, they get injured, they do obviously lose their life like Skeptical did. But it was a great story. There just should have been about 12 chapters, not 2.
Yeah, and so there was the highest rated sprinter in Ireland after the first 4 or 5 races of the season. 2 quick points to everybody watching. The driving analogy that Davey made earlier, straight over Johnny's head, obviously, because you don't drive, do you?
I can drive, but I've never gotten a licence, and the longer it goes on, the less likely I think I am. I think what will happen in the future is people won't buy cars in the city, they'll just rent them. Although it has been pointed out they might all be renting them at the same time, but I think cars, electric cars, otherwise cars will become a thing of the past.
And when you're talking about expensive bikes, that's because you recently bought one that was so impressive.
So impressive what?
It was being eyed up on the way in today.
My bike was stolen recently outside Houston Station. To be fair, the Gardaí rang me, it must be 3 or 4 weeks later, about the bike, and to give some details, and they said they'd look into CCTV, because I kind of thought, like, bike theft in Dublin, I think in June or July was up like exponentially on the same figures last year. So bike theft, which I find one of the most horrible things you can do to anyone, how do you steal someone's bicycle, was up massively. So I left the bike outside Houston Station, went to Galway Races for the launch of the weights, and came back bikeless. But I'm in the Clane Wheelers Cycling Club, and 3 of them offered to give me a bicycle, and I bought a bike online which wasn't stolen, and I still have it a week later.
And I mean, that wasn't the story you were supposed to tell there.
Sorry,
Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. They're teaming me up for a story here. So while I was cycling here down Cork Street, I pulled up at traffic lights beside an open-top Bentley. I was like, this guy must have a bit of a swagger about him. And he gave me this kind of derisory look. And it was Conor McGregor. So we came down at the end of Cork Street, as any of you know, coming towards Patrick's Cathedral. And he was a bit sluggish to get out from the green light. And I zoomed past him on my Cannondale. And just for a second, I felt better than Conor McGregor.
I thought he was jealous of your bike. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. We stream live every Friday afternoon on the OTB Sports app. And of course, we also then broadcast the entire Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball on News Talk from 8. See you next week. Best of luck.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.